How long does a wine stay fresh once it's opened? One of the most asked questions, and it depends on two things, mainly age and style. Being wine, there's always exceptions to the rule, but if we start with one of the trickiest wines to keep fresh after it's been opened is sparkling wine. In this case, champagne, and the absolute best thing that you can do is go out and buy an inexpensive stopper to pop back into your bottle of champagne. Once resealed, that can most definitely live in your fridge for a couple of days. It may not be quite as fizzy as it was when you first opened it, but certainly won't be missing bubbles. So, cheap stopper, that's the easiest way to store champagne once open, couple to 3 days in the fridge. Or cava, or a fully sparkling prosecco, or other sparkling wine. Same rule applies. I'm moving on to white now, and white also can be stored for another 2 to 3 days in the fridge once you restopper it. And my advice would be to buy wine with a screw cap, because it very easily goes back onto the top of the bottle. It can be harder to get a cork back into the bottle. Used to be screw caps were considered to be used to seal cheaper bottles of wine, but these days, a quick look around the shelves in O'Brien's, you'll see that quite expensive bottles of wine are using screw cap. And screw cap is about determining basically the quality and the aroma profile. So often the winemaker wants to keep a screw cap in a wine where he's very keen to keep the fruit quality similar to how it was when he bottled it. So screw cap is definitely nothing to be scared of. It's being used for quite expensive bottles of wine these days very successfully and has been for a good few years. On to lighter reds. In this case, a Pinot Noir from Burgundy. Again, can be stored for 2 to 3 days. Sometimes a lighter red can benefit from going back into, say, if it's already been chilled, it can be popped back into the fridge for 2 or 3 days, or even if it hasn't been chilled, a couple of days in the fridge can really help preserve the fruit flavours and aromas in a lighter red. So that can definitely go into the fridge for chilling before you need it again. And then fuller reds, as long as you again keep the cork, reclose it, and it can stay somewhere in a cool temperature, doesn't need to be the fridge, because a more robust red with higher tannins can be stored for longer. So it can basically live at room temperature somewhere and doesn't need to go into the fridge because the tannins will protect a wine. Moving on to port, there's higher alcohol in port and in other fortified wines. And these can quite often be kept for 2 to 3 weeks. So the most important thing is to keep the cork, pop it back in and store it. And with the alcohol, in this case 19%, it can be stored for 2 to 3 weeks. The exception to this rule across the board really would be older wines, because older wines should really be drunk when you open them. They just won't keep for very long. Once the oxygen gets into the bottle, it starts to deplete the fruit and the other structures within the wine. And really, if you're going to open an old bottle, sit down and enjoy it and don't keep it.